What's the good word, Josh? Your boy DKB here. So we got some breaking news this morning. Haason Reddick will be officially holding out a training camp. And then on my way to work, I see some additional details before I had the chance to shoot this video. And that the original understanding was the New York Jets traded a third round pick in 2026 for Haason Reddick without there really being anything worked out or done. Just a understanding that um, depending on performance for Haason Reddick, there may be a long-term offer that can be worked out. Now, per Connor Hughes, that report isn't necessarily accurate, right? We've been focused on the fact that something has changed from the time that we traded for Haason Reddick to when OTAs and stuff started and he was absent. But per Connor Hughes, we actually offered a contract. Now, there were no numbers or financials given, but essentially that it was definitely above what he's making now, which is about 14.5 million non-guaranteed in terms of his 14.5 million. But that is a huge factor, right? Because the Jets have already tried the initial negotiation piece with Haason Reddick and he shut it down. 25 to 28 million dollars appears to be the range that Haason Reddick is willing to work within. And I seen the comparable that Josh Allen, not the Buffalo QB, but the Jaguars pass rusher, or I think is Josh Hines Allen now. But nonetheless, he's making about $28 million per year. And that seems to be the framework of a deal that Haason Reddick is willing to work around. Now, that is a pretty massive upgrade. It makes a ton of sense for Haason Reddick. He's been underpaid for, a number of years now relative to his production in the market. But can the Jets afford that for one? Connor Hughes also mentioned that the Jets aren't shutting down that reality, that he's worth that money and they're willing to fork it up. But they want to see how he operates within this system, how he's performing within this defense. And we can't see that if he's not on the field, right? And I guess this wouldn't be based on training camp. It would, of course, be the regular season production. So I'm kind of curious to see who blinks first here, right? I'm still sticking by the fact that the New York Jets have all the leverage in this situation, and Haason Reddick is really only hurting himself the longer he tends to wait things out, the longer it takes for him to pick up this defensive playbook, which Robert Saleh's already mentioned before that he has the playbook, the minimal contact they've been within. He's in a good place mentally and all that kind of stuff, yada, yada. So maybe he comes in as ready as you can be just for being mentally prepared, but he's not going to have the physical conditioning and all those other things like you would need to for the regular season. So there's concerns there already, and he's going to ultimately have to play, right? So he's kind of betting against himself right now. Now, there is an interesting situation here for the New York Jets as maybe an ace up their sleeve in that if you believe the reports that some teams out there like the Eagles and I think the Falcons were another one that may be willing to trade for Haason Reddick after we've traded for him in the same offseason, the New York Jets may have a chance to at least try to recoup some of that capital. Now, I haven't seen what packages will look like for it, and the Jets would be at a disadvantage in those kind of conversations. But again, they gave up a third round pick, in 2026. So if they can get a third round pick back at any point, or maybe a combination of mid round picks sooner, it'll kind of make up the value, right? Keep in mind the further back you go, the further years back you go in offering trade assets, they're depreciated, right? You look at it as being a round down. So realistically, that 2026 third is kind of feels like a 2024, or I guess a 2025 fifth rounder, for example. A little bit more nuanced than that, but just to kind of have it out there in your guys' brain. So ultimately, this does suck. I wanted to go into training camp with as little distractions or concerns as possible, and it definitely seemed like we were heading that way. I recently dropped the report that, we've seen Haason Reddick back in Jersey. He was hosting his youth football camp. I took that as a really, really good sign. And maybe it can still be right that he's in the area and it's just a matter of when he shows up pending this whole contract situation. But still sucks that there's going to be some kind of media distraction out there in the midst of everything going on. But Let me know what you guys think. Haason Reddick, the contract that's been offered. When does this deal get done? I'm looking at August 8th, which was one of our first joint practices, as maybe the line in the sand that determines how long Haason Reddick is truly willing to wait out getting this contract deal done, right? And then maybe when the Jets do start pursuing some of those other trade conversations. But let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you again. Peace.